So let's jump onto the next topic, which is the characteristics of early words. Number one is the first words are typically monosyllabic or CB form. At the beginning of language acquisition, children's first words are often simple and short, typically consisting of single syllable. A common structure for these words is the CV, or the consonant vowel, means that the word is composed of a consonant sound followed by a vowel sound. For example, ba, ma, or da. So under the number one, there are the monosyllabic and the CB form. So what are the monosyllabic and what is CB form? So the monosyllabic means the word has only one syllable. From the word mono, it has only one syllable. Syllables are the basic units of speech, often containing a vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants. On the other hand, the CV form is the simplest form for early speech, that is a consonant followed by a vowel. This structure is easy for infants to produce because vowels are generally easier to articulate than consonants, and the CV pattern requires fewer articulatory movements. This pattern is observed across many languages, not just English, as it reflects the simplest possible phonological structure that young children can use while they are still learning how to control their speech apparatus. Second is the smaller phonemic inventory compared to language. So a phonemic inventory refers to the set of distinct sounds, which are the phonemes a child can produce and distinguish in their speech. When children begin speaking, their phonemic inventory is much smaller than the adults. This means that they are only able to produce a limited number of sounds, especially in the early stages of language development. Their early words often omit sounds that are more difficult to produce, such as the th or th in think, or complex consonant cluster like str in street. Like for instance, a child might say tar, tar, for star, dropping the s sound. In simplified production, sounds like P, B, M, and T are typically acquired earlier, while others like L, R, SH appear later as the child gains more control over their articulators like lips, tongue, and other. So this smaller phonemic inventory is part of the natural process of language acquisition, and it expands over time as the child practices and refines their ability to produce wider range of sounds. So let's proceed to number 3, which is the acquisition starts with common sounds across various language. So children's speech typically include those that are common across many world's languages. These sounds are generally easier for infants to produce due to their physical development and the simplicity of the sound. And this acquisition starts with common sound across various language. Early sounds like P, B, M, A, and T are common across many languages. These are often referred to as universal because they are found in most languages, making them easier for babies to produce and recognize. So in the natural development of the children, or in the natural development, babies begin with these sounds because they are produced using basic articulatory movements that are easier for an infant's mouth and vocal tract to make. For example, The sound as in mama is produced by closing the lips, like a simple movement that young infants can control. As the children's articulatory skills improve and they hear more complex sounds in their environment, their phonemic inventory expands to include less common sounds that are specific to their native language. Next is the phonological inventory. A phonological inventory refers to the complete set of distinct sound or phonemes used in a particular language or dialect. This inventory includes both consonants and vowel, and it may also account for features like tone, stress, and intonation patterns. Phonological inventories, it is really important for understanding the sound system of a language and how sounds are used in a speech. So there are some components of a phonological inventory, which is the early sounds include the b, m, d, and k, and k. When infants start to produce speech sounds, they often begin with some of the simplest and easiest sound to articulate. These sounds are typically produced using basic mouth movements and vocal tract configuration that are accessible to babies in early development. The sound b, m, d, and k are some of the most common early sound children acquire across various languages. The b, as in baby, this is a voice bilabial plosive, means that it is produced by bringing both lips together and producing sound with vocal cords vibrating. So the motion of closing the lips is easy for babies to perform. As in mom or m, the letter M, this is a voice bilabial nasal, means that it is produced by closing the lips and allowing air to flow through the nose. This is another simple sound that infants can produce early because it requires basic control of the mouth and nasal passages. The as in dog or the letter D, it is a voiced alveolar plosive. It is produced by the tongue making contact with the alveolar ridge. Produced by the tongue making contact with the alveolar ridge is behind the upper teeth. So the tongue and lips are fairly easy to control as babies start developing their articulation skills. The K, the letter K, it is a voiceless velar plosive. It is produced by blocking airflow at the back of the mouth near the velum. The velum is the soft part of the roof of the mouth. It's one of the first back sound children can articulate, and it is generally produced quite early as babies experiment with their vocal tract. So the letter B, M, D, and K, these sounds are common in many of the world's languages, and they are usually some of the first phonemes to emerge in infant speech because they are easier to produce with the basic physical capabilities of a young child. Second is the influence of sound distribution and frequency on phoneme acquisition. Phoneme acquisition in children is influenced by two key factors: the sound distribution and the frequency of certain sound in child development. In the sound distribution, the distribution refers to how certain sounds appear more frequently in the child's linguistic environment. Like, if a language has more words that contain certain sound, a child will be exposed to those sounds more often, and as a result, they will likely acquire them earlier. For example, if a language has many words that begin with the sound b or d, the child will likely be exposed to this sound more frequently and will acquire them earlier than sounds that are rare or sounds that occurs less often in the language. The frequency of a sound refers to how often a specific sound is used in the overall language. High-frequency sounds are often simpler and occur more often in speech, so children tend to learn them first. So the low-frequency sound, especially those that require more complex articulation, they are often acquired later. For example, in English, the sounds b, m, d, and k occur frequently and are present in many basic everyday words like baby, dog, cat, and mom, and many more. So this high frequency contributes to the early acquisition of the children. On the other hand, sounds like v or z or the letter v and z or some complex consonant clusters like STR, the letter STR, are less frequent in English and therefore they are learned later. So that is the phonological inventory. Let's proceed to the 2-year development. In the 2-year development, the development of phonological awareness and production in children typically follows a predictable sequence as they grow and are exposed to the sounds of their native language. By the age of 2, children have made significant progress in understanding and producing the sound they hear around them. So here are the key stages of the 2-year development. The first year, understanding sound of the target language. So, in this stage, infants can discriminate between a wide range of speech sounds from different languages. There are some research that shows babies are initially universal listeners and can differentiate sound from many languages in the world. So next is the focusing on the target language. By around 6 to 12 months, infant starts to specialize in the sound of the target language or the target languages they hear regularly, and they begin to lose the ability to distinguish between sounds that are not present in those language. For example, English learning infants may stop distinguishing between the R, the and L or L sound as they learn that these are separate phonemes in English. While infants exposed to language like Japanese, they may retain the ability to distinguish them. So in the pre-linguistic perception, in this period, infants also become attuned to features like rhythm, stress, patterns, and intonation, and the phonemic inventory of their environment. This includes the differences between the vowels and consonants, the rhythm of speech, and features like the syllable structure. So overall, during the first year, the focus is primarily on perception. The infant is learning to tune in to the specific phonological characteristics of their native languages, and they will filter out irrelevant sounds from other language.